In this interview with Spencer Fearon, John Fury claims that if he'd been in charge of managing Anthony Joshua's career, if he'd been guiding him, AJ would still be unbeaten and still be world heavyweight champion right now. He basically says that he would have done a good job at protecting AJ, getting him the right fights at the right time, minimizing risk while maximizing reward. He says he knows exactly what his fighters can and cannot do, who they can and cannot beat, and he guides them accordingly. He then goes on to say that this is why his son Tyson is where he is today, inferring that he is the mastermind behind his son's success. Now, you could take that as an inadvertent admission that Tyson Fury has avoided or been steered away from certain fights in the past, which we all know he has. But we didn't expect a member of his team to admit it, much less his dad, albeit in an inadvertent fashion. Early on in Tyson's career, he was an absolute mess. Total lack of discipline, ballooning up in weight all the time, going life and death with John McDermott twice, really should have lost the first fight. That is when John Fury was still involved in training him and guiding him. It's only after John went to prison that Tyson got his act together and rose to prominence as a leading contender under the guidance of his uncle Peter, as well as Mick Hennessy and Frank Warren. John got released in the run-up to the Christian Hammer fight when Tyson was already mandatory for Vladimir Klitschko. He'd already been guided into that position. He'd already been sufficiently prepared to become champion. Is John Fury trying to suggest that he masterminded all of this from his prison cell and that the rest of the team were just acting on his instructions? Is anyone allowed to get any credit here other than John Fury? Fast forward to 2018. Tyson is in America preparing for the first Wilder fight. John didn't want him to take that fight. He wanted Tyson to stay in the UK and fight Anthony Joshua instead. But Tyson went against his wishes. And the gamble paid off because that performance led to fame and fortune in America and an extremely lucrative deal with ESPN and Top Rank. John didn't set any of that up, nor was he involved in the training camps. Tyson was training in America with Ben Davison at that point. He then switched over to Sugar Hill and continued training and fighting in America until he got banned from entering that country. But John is trying to claim credit for Tyson's success and demonize many of the team members who actually had more of a hand in it than he did. Lately, he's even been having a go at Frank Warren. With all that aside, John Fury is speaking from a business perspective. He's speaking from the perspective of someone who's trying to keep his fighter unbeaten. That's understandable if you're a manager or even a family member. But that objective is at odds with what the public want. The public want champions who are willing to fight anyone. I'm glad that Anthony Joshua fought Andy Ruiz and Alexander Usyk. From a fan's perspective, that's what a world champion is supposed to do. To avoid such fights would be anathema to the whole concept of a world champion. It discredits your status. For that reason, I'm glad that John Fury wasn't guiding Anthony Joshua's career. Not that he would have been as good at it as he claims, but he would have had AJ moving in such a fashion that is not befitting of a world champion. There's already too much of that kind of thing in boxing. That's one of the reasons the sport is struggling in places like the United States. We need less of that. It hurts the sport overall, and in the long run, it's going to hurt every fighter. It's going to hurt every promoter. And it obviously robs the fans of the kind of entertainment they want to see. Anyway, I'll leave it there.